Good afternoon and welcome to the Chicken Box, powered by the 130-year-old Afro-American newspapers. I am your co-host, Francis Tony Draper, and I'm so happy that you are with us on today. We have a great show for you on today. We're excited. We have three guests that will be with us in just a few moments. And so, if this is your first time on the Chicken Box and you're from the Baltimore area like I am, then you know that a chicken box is four wings and fries, four greasy wings and fries. Sometimes they don't go down well. They taste good when you first taste them, but you feel the effects later. And so chicken box with two X's. Don't be a chicken, get on the box. And so Impeccable is traveling today. And so my other co-host, oh, by the way, you all who are on here, usually with us, this is an intergenerational show. And so I'm holding it down for the boomers. And then Kevin usually is on for the Gen Xers, but he's not here today, or Impeccable as we call him. But we do have our Gen Z co-host, Courtney Alexander. Courtney, go on and introduce yourself and say whatever's on your mind right now, and then introduce our topic and at least a couple of our guests, and then I'll introduce one as well.
Sure thing. I am blessed to be here. It is a sunny day around the suburbs of Chicago. Kind of chilly, so I'm not going to complain about that. It is late October now. Like Dr. Draper said, I am holding it down for Gen Z. And today we will be, excuse me, we will be talking about Black people versus copyright. And today we will have Billy Davis and Ryan Lewis, and they are entertainment fellows for the Motion Picture Association.
All righty. And so Billy and Ryan, welcome. They're coming on, and they are working under the tutelage, I guess, of Karen Temple, well-known copyright attorney, general counsel for the vice. Let me get it right, Karen. Senior executive vice president and global, not just general counsel, guys. Global general counsel for the Motion Picture Association. That's a lot to say, but when you are in that kind of position, it's okay to have that much to say. That means she oversees all of that association's legal affairs, content protection efforts around the world. And she is the most senior African American at the Motion Picture Association. And that means that she's doing things for Disney and Netflix and Paramount and Sony, or, a whole lot of folk, names that we know and see. Karen Temple is somebody. And we knew that at the Afro, we honored her this spring in Washington, D.C. She comes with all kinds of credentials. She was in charge of the United States Copyright Office before being named to this position. And she just has so much. I don't want to tell you her whole bio because I want her to tell us a little bit more about what she does. Now, if we say the word copyright, come on, those who are watching, what do we know what that really means? Well, we're going to find out now. And about this fellowship program that both Ryan and Billy are a part of. And so, Courtney, come on, get the comment. And this is a conversation. So you all who are watching online or on either Facebook/Meta, LinkedIn, or YouTube, we're depending on you to weigh in. Courtney, why don't you get the ball rolling?
Most definitely. For starters, can you tell us more about yourselves and what are your roles at MPA?
So I guess I'll start and thank you, Tony, for that wonderful introduction. It was really just an honor to be honored by the Afro this past few months for the Afro Tea. It was a wonderful event. I still remember the chonga line we had on at the end, which was so fun. So it was just a pleasure to be there. So thank you for having me again. My role, as mentioned, is Global General Counsel for the MPA. We do, focus on primarily two issues at the Motion Pictures Association. And we have 6 members. You mentioned some of them. Disney, all names that I think people in our audience will be very familiar with. Disney, Paramount, Netflix, Warner Brothers, Universal, Sony Pictures. And one of the main things that I do in my day-to-day is work on content protection for those studios. And that is protecting the studio's content from piracy, from people stealing the content. When a movie, is released, sometimes, you'll see what we call bootlegs being sold on the street, although much, much less now than maybe when I was growing up. Also, you have, pirate services that are not even in the United States. They're actually located overseas, real criminal organizations. We're not talking about people, just one person who, is in their basement. We're talking about criminal organizations who are pirating movies, stealing streams of movies, and then, kind of restreaming to others, and actually getting millions of dollars. So again, it's not a dollar here or a dollar there, millions of dollars. And often what they're doing is funding other criminal activity. So they're stealing the content from the studios, making money for themselves, as well as making money for their criminal organizations. And so what I do in my day-to-day is, run a team of people around the world. I mean, we have folks here in the United States, but we also have both lawyers and investigators in a lot of different parts of the world who are online every day searching for those people who are going to steal the studio's content, and going after those criminal organizations to really get them to stop and to make sure that they don't do it again. We also actually have partnerships with other organizations in the whole kind of internet ecosystem. So we actually do work closely with, for example, payment processors like Visa, or search engines like Google, to say, hey, there are criminal organizations that are trying to use your services to do their criminal activity. Can we work together to try to stop that? And so we often have some partnerships and agreements with those organizations as well, to try to stop the stealing of movies, television, and streaming.
Wow. So also a lot of us are exhaling. So Karyn's not coming after you for buying the bootleg, Lion King on the corner.
Although I did have to have a chat with my mom about that, saying, Mom, you better not be buying the bootleg from the corner or when they come into the hair salon, because you know what I do for my day-to-day. But no, the focus really is on those criminal organizations, those services that are making millions and millions of dollars, not on the individual person who might be unknowingly sometimes actually going online and downloading an illegal service or app.
Wow, that sounds like that's a big job to try to police, if you will. And so if you're just tuning in, this is the Chicken BOXX powered by the Afro-American, and we welcome Dorothy Bulware's with us today online, Laura Bell. Jacqueline White says, greetings from Zanzibar. There you are, East Africa. Lisa Brock, Michelle. Hey, Michelle, from the National Association of Black Journalists, and the links and all other kinds of connections. Good to see you online, and others as well. And before we go to Ryan and Billy, when you say you lead a team, Karyn Temple, put that in perspective for us. You're not talking about, like a football team of 11 on the field. When you say a team, how many people?
So we have, I would say we have a combination. So some are lawyers. So I have a team of lawyers, about 20 lawyers that are kind of doing the litigation, the criminal. We work with law enforcement to bring criminal cases against private services. Some of the lawyers are in the United States, primarily in California. Some of the lawyers are in our regional office in Brussels. Some are in our office in Asia Pacific and Singapore and Hong Kong. So we have lawyers in those various different places. And then we have almost 100 investigators who are also part of the content protection team. Again, and those are the people who are investigating the crime, looking to see again, what's out there on the internet, who's stealing, the content, where is it coming from, trying to figure out who's behind it. It's sometimes it's hard. People try to be anonymous on the internet. So who is behind that illegal streaming that is coming out? That movie that's currently in the theater, but also is being illegally streamed through a website. So our investigators are literally working 24 hours, 7 days, almost 7 days a week, depending on the location, to figure out who those illegal website operators are. So that's the team, both the lawyers and the investigators.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, Ryan and Billy, tell us about your role at the Motion Picture Association. Both of you all have an important role there, and we want to know about that. So let's start with you, Billy.
Still getting used to pressing the unmute button. But hey, everyone. So my role with the MPA as of now has been dealing with mainly content protection stuff and mainly our intermediary outreach team with John Green. So what that is comprised of is a team from about 5 different regions around the world, and we're just trying to figure out ways to disrupt pirates. As Karyn said earlier, we do things around payment processors, ads, things of that nature. We also help out around the office as far as with bios for when our CEO has a meeting, he wants to be informed about who he's going to be meeting with. We'll just do some short bios for him. And we also, the thing I'm most excited about is our CARA capstone project. CARA is the Classification and Ratings Administration. And what they do is they are who makes your ratings for your movies. So when you see rated R, that's them. So we've been tasked with trying to figure out just how accurate they've been and how well they're doing around violence that includes racism in movies, and also suicide and the depictions of suicide in movies. So that's just a short synopsis of what we do here, but we do so much. It depends on the week, to be honest. One week it might be writing a memo. The next week it might be going to information sessions on college campuses, just letting them know what we do here. So it's always exciting, and every day you wake up and you have something to do for sure.
Well, tell us a little. Thank you so much. It sounds like you're really busy. Tell us a little bit about this journey to become a fellow rather, and your fellowship. And Ryan, I'm gonna ask you the same things after I find out. So, Billy, how long have you been a fellow? Tell us, how did you become a fellow?
Well, I've been a fellow since June, and the way I became a fellow was I was alerted to this by a family member, and she knew that I had interest in intellectual property. So I graduated from Howard Law in 2021, and I was studying for the bar, trying to find somewhere to work, and I found this, and I applied on, I want to say, the first week that the applications opened. From then on, I was just, checking back in, making sure I had sent all of my documents correctly, reaching out to see like, hey, is there anything going on? And then they reached back out to me, I want to say the first week of February. And from then on, we scheduled some interviews, and it was super quick. The first initial part after applying, I was a little nervous, but after that, and after meeting with Karyn and the rest of the global team, and meeting with Charlie Rifkin, who is our CEO, it was a pretty smooth process. The interviews were very comfortable. They made you feel at home. They make you feel like you're already a part of the team. So I enjoyed all the parts of it. I enjoyed the stories I heard from Karyn in the interview, and the stories I heard from Charlie in the interview. So the application process, it's a longer process, but once the ball gets rolling, it's pretty quick, and you're gonna have to make some decisions pretty quickly.
All right, shout out to HU Law School and to HBCUs. Ryan, we have not heard your voice, so tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming a fellow. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Ryan Lewis, and I'm a graduate of Spelman College. I graduated in May 2021. Before coming to MPA, I was working at a law firm, at Sidley Law Firm in Chicago, Illinois, for a year. And then during my time there, I applied to the fellowship. for the policy fellow position, which is what I ended up getting. And it was through a family friend that actually sent mine to me as well, one of my good friends. And I had always followed HBCU in LA throughout college because I was interested in their internship program, but I never followed through. I just knew I had an interest in it. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like, this is more up my alley. And it's something that I can do as a graduate. So since I've been at MPA as a policy fellow, I've been working with the government affairs team. I do a lot of research projects, different issues like production incentives, um, digital goods taxes, publicity, just a lot of different topics and legislations and issues that MPA is worried about, along with the member studios. And also, like Billy mentioned, we do some projects with Kara as well, with the research on suicide and racism and its role in movies and how it affects parents and what they're letting their kids see, what they want to know about before seeing a film, and their descriptors. So that's a lot of what we do, as well as the bios for our CEO, Charlie. So it definitely, like he was saying, keeps us pretty busy all the time. I've gotten to also attend a few hearings, which has been really interesting. Not in person yet, but I've been attending virtually. So that's been really informative as well. So that's a good summary of what I do. Did I miss something? I feel like there's something I didn't answer.
And all other duties as a side, right?
Yeah, every day is a little different. So it might be like just a random project one day, but I have my projects that I do on a daily basis that I pretty much work on throughout the year.
Wow, great opportunities. If you're just tuning in, this is the Chicken BOXX powered by the Afro-American newspapers. We just celebrated 130 years this past August. And let me give this commercial, this plug, as we're talking about Black people versus copyrights. Karyn, we could bend your ear because we've got 130 years worth of archival material that we try to keep protected. But I want to ask our viewers today, and Jewel, we see you, glad that you're with us today, to take our audience survey. We have an audience survey. I think the link's going to come up in the chat. Win a chance for an iPad Air. And so we are conducting surveys in our markets so we can better gauge what kind of business and financial news is important to our audiences. And so the results of that survey are going to determine content that we create. We have a partnership. When I say we, there are some other newspapers, including the Afro, across the country. We have a partnership with Deloitte, and we want to have this contest because before we put this content out, talking about content, we want to survey our audiences to find out what content you'd like to see. Courtney Alexander, you had a whole list of things you wanted to know from our guest on today. And so Ryan and Billy, thank you so much for giving us that overview. Courtney, what did you want to know? What are you curious about?
I do have a question for Karyn. Can you tell us more about who's eligible for the fellowship? And I did some research, and fellows have housing, travel, and stipends to participate in the year-long program. Can you tell us more about that and how the program has prepared fellows to work in the field?
Yeah, no, thanks, Courtney. That's a great question. Billy and Ryan are our first fellows. So this is our first inaugural year. This is something that was close to my heart, as well as to the CEO, Charlie Rivkin, and our studios, quite frankly, in terms of expanding opportunities for diverse attorneys, as well as diverse graduates in the policy field. So our focus is on people who have graduated for the policy fellow, at least graduated from undergrad, from an HBCU or an HSI, a Hispanic serving institution, or other minority serving institution. And for the law fellow, somebody who's graduated from a law school, an HBCU law school, minority serving institution law school, or Hispanic serving institution law school. So our focus is trying to increase opportunities for, again, diverse attorneys and diverse students who are interested in policy to come into the entertainment field. One of the things that I've noticed being in this business for a long time is that it's hard to break in. You see movies, you see, you see the kind of the fun stuff people are doing, but a lot of times you're like, how can I do that? How do I get to work for a studio, or a streaming company? And so one of the things we wanted to do was to bring that to people who might not have a connection in a studio or with a streamer, and give them access so that they're able to pursue a career in this. So we created the fellowship last year. Again, all MSIs are eligible. Students from MSIs are eligible. And once they go through the application process, they get a full year. They do 6 months working for the Motion Picture Association in 2 of our offices. We have an office in Washington, D.C., where Billy and Ryan are working right now. We also have an office in Los Angeles where they started out. And then for the final 6 months of the fellowship, they're actually going to be working day to day with one of our studios. And in this case, Billy is going to be working with Paramount Pictures, and Ryan is going to be working with Sony Pictures, so they can actually get the real access to what it means to work in the entertainment field.
Wow. What a great answer. So tell us, what's MSI, Karyn?
Minority serving institution. So,
Okay.
So we wanted to make sure it's eligible. And, we, on our FAQ page on our website, we actually have a link. Rutgers University does a analysis of minority serving institutions. So we actually have a link to that report, which lists all of the MSIs in the country. So if you want to check and see if your school qualifies, you can go to that link and see if your school is on it. And then that would make you eligible for the fellowship.
So applications will open again in the spring, or?
They're actually open now. So we just opened the applications now. We're going to start the process. You won't be, the fellows won't be starting until essentially late May, early June of next year, but the application process is open now. So go to our website and look at the FAQs and get your applications in.
That's
and
good.
They're open until the application process is open until December 31st of this year.
Okay, we put it up on the screen. So Billy and Ryan, you all are the trailblazers. You're the first ones in this space. What do you wonder about in terms of, not wonder, but, and I don't like to say wish, but what do you hope somebody would have told you from the beginning? What did you expect? I mean, is there some advice you can give to those who may be applying for next year? What would you want to tell them?
Well, for me, my advice would definitely be to keep an open mind and just entering a new space and really taking everything in and every opportunity. So for me, I think I had an idea of what I thought I wanted to do, like career-wise. And that has changed a lot since being in the program and networking and talking to a lot of different people about my interests. I've learned about a lot of careers in entertainment that I didn't even really know about or didn't know existed before. And even learning, like, as the policy fellow, learning more about production and production tax incentives and all the things that are under production and actors exclusivity and all these different issues and what that can look like, and knowing and having this background within a career has definitely impacted like where I will probably be next and what I'll be doing. So, and I don't know what that is, but it gives me something to think about. So definitely keeping an open mind and be open to learning and talking to people about what they do would probably be my greatest advice.
Okay. And what was your undergraduate major? Did you tell us already?
I didn't. I majored in psychology.
Psychology.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. I think there probably is a connection though between psychology and motion picture.
Not really. Not a lot. I wouldn't say I'm putting that degree to use, but
yes, you are.
Yes, you will at some point.
No, you are, because I'm sure you have to understand people.
Right.
And motivations, and be able to ask the kinds of questions that elicit the responses that you need. So don't downplay your psychology degree. You're using it. You just don't know you're using it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. You're
still making some kind of diagnosis.
Always, every day.
Always, every day. Mm-hmm. How about you, Billy? What would you? Now you were a law school graduate already from Howard, but is there anything that you said, you know what, if this is the kind of advice I'd give to the next class and next applicant.
Oh, for sure. So the advice I would have, especially graduating from law school, is have an idea of what type of law you would like to practice within the MPA. It just so happened that I really was into IP and content protection, and that's one of the major things that we do here. So I've been blessed to be able to speak with Karyn, in the office and in car rides about certain IP issues. And she's been able to put me on teams that are dealing with content protection and things of that nature. And I'm sure that if you had other interests as well, and that was shown, that Karyn could get you with another team that's, a little bit more geared for that. But also, as Ryan was saying, you have to keep an open mind, because you're not just going to be working on one type of entertainment law, because there's just so many different issues here as far as, just things going on within the industry. So you're going to have your hand in a lot of different pots, but having an idea of what you would like to specialize in and what you want to advance in would definitely be my best advice.
All right, having your hands in a whole lot of pots. So speaking of having your hands in a whole lot of pots, you know what? And we do this in our industry as well. All industries do it. We all have our own glossaries, right? We have our own. So Karyn, help us. Let's say we don't know what copyright is. We don't know what IP is. We don't know the difference between a copyright and a trademark. I mean, tell us what are those things? Help us out.
Yeah, so a copyright, to do one quote from a Supreme Court case, it's the engine of free expression, which is something that us copyright nerds and lawyers talk about all the time. But that really just means copyright itself. It's a legal system that incentivizes people, artists, to create. And how does it incentivize? How does it encourage people to create? It does that by allowing them to get paid for their artistic creativity. They have the right to be able to say, you can use my work, you can't use my work. If you use my work, I want you to pay me for the use of my work. So that's what copyright is. It is an incentive, an encouragement for people to create by giving them an economic benefit from creation. And it's a type of, we call it intellectual property, because it is a type of property, but it's that type of property that you don't need. It's not a house or a car. You don't actually need a specific degree or a specific background. It's all in your head. It's your intellect, your creativity that all of us have, that can make you an artist who can use copyright to be able to make a living. And I like to say now we're all copyright owners. We all own intellectual property. Anytime any of us take a picture now, and we take pictures all the time, those pictures are our copyrighted works, our creative works that we have and that we own. And so, it's something that now kind of affects everyone. And more recently, we've seen with the internet and new services that have come along, where an artist can, create on their own, not necessarily be connected to a big industry corporation, but do their own music and publish it, write their own books and self-publish them, and still be able to use copyright to be able to create more by being able to get paid for the value of their creative works.
Wow. So can you still do, what was it called? A poor people's copyright? Can people just do it without a lawyer? Suppose I've self-published a book and I want to protect my work. Can I just do something? Can I still just mail something to myself?
I will say that is a myth. There is no such thing as a poor people's copyright in the mailing. I will one day do a research project on where did that myth come up. Right. But the good news is that actually you don't need to do anything. So we changed the law years and years ago, decades ago, actually, to say that you own your copyright as soon as the work is created and in what we call in legal terms fixed, but as soon as it's created in a real form, as soon as you take that picture, as soon as you write that book, as soon as you write the song, you have a copyright. Now, what I do encourage, because of my background as head of the Copyright Office, is to take advantage of some of the things that registering your copyright with the Copyright Office will do. So if you will always have your copyright, but if you want to go into court, for example, to sue somebody who is stealing your copyright, you do need to register it with the Copyright Office. It's very easy to do that. You can go on the www.copyright.gov website and figure out how to do it. But you will always have the copyright as long as you create something independently. But there are certain advantages of actually registering your copyright with the U.S. government.
So to our audience, there you have it. No such thing as a poor people's copyright. Karyn said she doesn't know where that myth came from, but it's certainly been passed around a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I think it might have been back in the day before the law was changed to basically say, again, copyright exists as soon as you create it.
Wow. Okay, that's good. That's good information. Courtney, what's your follow-up? I saw your mic come on.
I didn't know that, so I'm learning something new every day. I am curious about this. What are some of the legal and ethical issues of copyright infringement?
Well, I mean, I think, the legal issues are, copyright infringement, and we call it copyright infringement. I think, another word for it is just theft. It's stealing somebody else's hard work. So you are an artist and you spend years, making paintings or making photographs, and you want to get paid for all of that hard work. Copyright infringement is somebody stealing that work, and again, selling your work that you've put in, all the time and effort on, and them getting paid for it versus you. So that's, and that's an ethical issue. I know, as I said, I've joked with my mom about getting the bootlegs and movies and bootlegs purses, but the reason why it is so harmful is that, again, if you want to be able to be a working artist and continue that and not have to have a side job as a waiter or a side job as something else, you need to be able to get paid for all of the work that you're doing. And that is an ethical issue. And for minority artists, especially, it can be difficult to, get that really, really big break. And when you get that big break, people are stealing your work, that is even, worse. So if you finally got that movie greenlit, for example, that has a minority cast, but people don't go to the theater to watch it, instead they watch it illegally or get a bootleg, you're not going to get that next movie greenlit because the studios will say, well, you didn't make any money. And so it is important for all of the working artists and creators, and then everybody who works on studio films, the hairstylists, the caterers, people who actually make a living supporting those films, that you can have legitimate content and that you can make a living, from it.
Wow. So all those names that we see at
exactly all those credits. Oh. What I've said recently was it in fact does take a village to make a film, and all those credits are everyday working class people who are getting paid from the copyright system that I just talked about.
Wow, that is fascinating. And so Ryan and Billy, did you know a lot about Billy? You may have, because you're a law school graduate, but did you all know a lot about copyright when you first went into this fellowship, Ryan?
I personally didn't. When I was working at a law firm, when I was working at Sidley, my focus was product liability litigation. So copyright wasn't a big topic, but since being an MPA, I've definitely been exposed to a lot more of like what copyright is and like its role in the entertainment industry. So yeah, most definitely.
Okay. Billy, I assume that you had some part of that training in law school?
Yes. Because Howard has a robust IP curriculum, so I had a cursory knowledge of copyrights as well. Maybe just a little bit more advanced than Ryan's.
Well, tell us about IP. I think Karyn told us a little bit about it, but tell us a little bit more about intellectual property. Anything else we should be aware of?
Well, I'll speak on one of the things that Karyn has had me research recently, which
Okay.
is NFTs and
Yeah, tell us about it.
non-fungible
Yeah,
tokens.
tell us about NFTs. It's a big deal now. Tell us about that.
It's a huge deal because there are so many things that you can do with it, as far as you can make an NFT, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically royalty backed, so that the buyer of the NFT would own the copyright and be able to receive royalties from it. We've seen where movie studios and producers are fighting back and forth over the content as to who really owns the content. One of the most recent cases was Miramax versus Tarantino, because Quentin Tarantino put out an NFT of some deleted scenes from, I believe it was Pulp Fiction. And the main issues right now are, how do we determine what those contracts that were written in the 80s and the 90s, when there was no concept of cryptocurrency or an NFT or the internet as we know it today, how would you protect those rights? Or how do you how do you give those rights away in the 80s if you didn't even know about the technology, and who owns it now? So I've seen a couple fights on that. I've been trying to I was following the Jay-Z, I believe it was Rockefeller versus Dame Dash suit that was dealing with the same thing. It was an NFT release of the Reasonable Doubt album cover by Dame Dash, and basically he's 1/3 of that company, or basically owns a 1/3 share of the company, but didn't clear it with them, and they basically didn't want him to put out the NFT even though he has a claim to it. So basically we're trying to figure out what's going to be the new law for this. So there's going to be some precedential cases. Unlucky for us, they've been settling. Those past 2 cases settled, and they didn't say anything about the settlement agreement. So I've just been on the lookout trying to find more about that, because I think NFTs and copyrights are going to be intertwined for a good amount of time, or at least as long as NFTs are around.
Yeah, that's huge, and especially if they, you don't have any precedent, and so which makes me curious, Karyn, with and Billy just put it up with cryptocurrency just being, you know, I guess it's not new, but it's new for a lot of people. Does that make it more difficult to find the pirates?
Well, I do actually talk about that a lot, and I will say, for me, that's what makes my job exciting, because even though I've been doing copyright, piracy, copyright infringement litigation for years, there's always something new coming out, and so yes, every time there's a new technology, there's a new way to steal or kind of criminalize that technology, and we, who are kind of charged with protecting it, have to figure out, how do we go about protecting it? Those of us, and it's probably not Billy or Ryan, who are around before the internet, before Apple's iTunes and things like that, when you had tapes of music. Remember, yeah, we were kind of suing people who were taking, making bootleg tapes and bootleg CDs. And then this thing called the internet came along, and people started saying, well, I'm going to rip a CD and put it online and share it for everyone. And there was a lot of litigation over, well, can you do that? Do you own it? Even if you own the tape, you don't own the right to make a copy and send it out to millions. And so we actually had a Supreme Court case, for example, that I worked on years ago, that went all the way up to the Supreme Court to figure that out. Like, how can you go after a service that is facilitating people from, ripping CDs and sharing it with, millions of people without authorization of the copyright owner? So every time there's something new, that's when the lawyers kind of get involved and try to figure it out. And that's what usually happens to make it come to litigation, because we can't figure it out. And one side thinks it's one thing, and the other side thinks, well, it really means something else. And then we have to go to court and for the court to decide. So that does make copyright really exciting, because, there are always new technologies. There's always new type of art as well. So people are creating something new. Now, actually, another thing we've seen recently in the news is AI generated art. So it's not generated by a human being. It's generated by some computer algorithm, but it looks just like a painting that a human being. who owns that work? The U.S. Copyright Office, as I happen to personally know, will say no one owns that work, because you have to have a human authorship for you to be able to have a valid copyright. But I think that there's going to be more and more discussion and litigation on whether computer-generated art is something that should be protected. And who owns it. So there's always some new issue that we're able to address in our day-to-day.
Wow. So my avatar belongs to me. I just want to make that.
Exactly.
I'm making that public, but that, you are so right. If you're just tuning in, this is the Chicken BOXX, powered by the Afro-American newspapers. And we're having a fascinating discussion with Karyn Temple, who is the Senior Vice President and Global General Counsel for the Motion Picture Association, along with two outstanding fellows, the first fellows of the Motion Picture Association, both Ryan and Billy. William Billy Davis. That sounds like a movie star's name, right? and as well as Ryan Lewis, who is a policy fellow, Spelman alumna. William Billy Davis is an entertainment fellow, and Howard Law. Somebody mentioned this, I think you did, Ryan, that there's so many careers, one of you did, in the entertainment industry. And Karyn, you said some of those, but what are some of the careers that people might not even know about?
Well, yeah, I will say, even just from the law perspective, there's so many different careers, that kind of touch entertainment. So I am, my background is litigation. So that's, I do copyright litigation. But there are, people who, do deals. They're doing licensing agreements. There are, lawyers who are agents who represent celebrities. There are, lawyers or others who are lobbyists, as Ryan talks about, who work to, develop laws that protect the industry and help to ensure that legitimate services can flourish. So there's just a whole host, just alone in the legal field, where if you have a law degree, you can use your law degree in so many different ways. And it doesn't, just because you're an entertainment lawyer doesn't mean you're kind of relegated to one thing. And, I think a lot of people don't know, even in the U.S. government, I was at the U.S. Copyright Office, but there are multiple agencies of the U.S. government that actually touch IP in some way. Obviously, the Patent and Trademark Office does both patents, trademarks, and they do copyright. But the Department of State, surprisingly, people wouldn't know, has a copyright team. The United States Trade Representative also does intellectual property. Those are when we're negotiating free trade agreements and other agreements with other countries about their copyright regime. So there's just, there's a whole nother area of law on international intellectual property. And how do we look at the various rules that are, placed, in the United States as well as elsewhere overseas. So there's just such a wide variety of, just even in the law, career areas. And then that's not to even to mention, as you said, all of the credits in terms of just the people who are working on the film, from the grips to the lighting folks to the producers, the showrunners, the writers. There's just so many different things that people can do if they're interested in the music industry. I was going to say music, but the film industry, but in the entertainment industry as a whole.
Right, because so many times people think they have to be on stage to be in the industry. Exactly. And somebody's got to be behind the scenes, and you guys do a whole lot of things behind the scenes. In case I didn't say this, Karyn Temple is also the most senior African-American at the Motion Picture Association, and so kudos to her. We do want to celebrate. Do we have to celebrate those accomplishments? How long have you been there, Karyn?
So I've been practicing for more than 20 years, but right. I've actually only been in this position for the last about 2.5 years. So I'm somewhat new, at least to the MPA, but not to the overall entertainment world. And I will say, I think you're exactly right to mention, behind the scenes, because I think one thing that people don't understand or realize is how much the people behind the scenes influence what's on the camera. So the fact, we need to have African-American and diverse writers and producers. Your name will be on the credit, but you might not be the actor. But that really does. I mean, there have been studies, and it shows that having a diverse writers' room, having diverse showrunners and diverse directors and diverse producers actually does make the film itself more diverse. So that's really important, to just not focus on the big name celebrities that you see in front of the camera, but the positions behind the camera that can influence what we see.
And you won't say this, but I'll say this, and having an African American in the C-suite gets a fellowship program going. I'll say that. All right. So let me say, because Courtney, I want you to weigh in. Michelle, hello. Michelle Jones is tuning in from Alexandria, Virginia. Andre Showell from Baltimore. He says it's an awesome subject. Jacqueline Basie says lots of energy and excitement with crypto and IP. Let's see. Jessica Garrett Markins is saying hello from, there she is from Miami. Chippy Bass is watching. I already said Michelle, but to everybody, thank you for tuning in to this week's Chicken Box. We only have a few moments left. And so before we get on the box in the final moments, and Courtney's going to take the final 5 or 10 minutes because I haven't, look, these back-to-back things that I'm actually at a conference that started a few minutes ago. But Courtney, anything else you want to ask or get some insight on?
Yeah, we briefly touched on legal and ethical issues. I've seen this debate on social media. So, like, hypothetically speaking, let's say someone goes on a site like Movies 123 and they're streaming bootleg movies. Can they face legal issues?
As a technical matter, I will say I would say they can face legal issues, and it's definitely an ethical issue in terms of you are contributing to theft and facilitating potentially again not your next door neighbor but criminal organizations, and it can be dangerous for you because if you go to that website, for example, to stream illegally, and that website might ask for your payment information. So because a lot of these websites, they don't give it for free, they're actually charging you to get stolen content. But you're now giving your credit card information to some, website operator in Russia who's then taking that your compromised credit cards and using them for something else. So I think it's an ethical issue for the individual, but also a personal issue and a personal protection issue in terms of their personal data. I will say, generally, obviously, the Motion Picture Association and other content industries, they're not, in the business of going after individuals who are might have stumbled across something by happenstance. We are actively going after those criminal organizations that are really facilitating copyright infringement on a mass scale. But there are reasons why you as an individual, even if you're not going to face my wrath, should not engage in that type of conduct because it exposes you to all sorts of potential malware and other things on your computer and things that you just don't want to be exposed to by partnering in some sense with these criminal actors.
So Karen said, if you don't want to face her wrath, I heard you. She did say she was a litigator. She's a litigator, so that means that she spent or spends time inside of the courtroom, right? I know a little bit about those words, not nearly as much as any of you know, and so that's great. So she's a litigator. About how many lawsuits are filed in this area? How many actually get to litigation?
Well, I mean, I'll say that there are a lot that get to litigation. I think years ago, when I was at the Recording Industry Association, actually, they did have a program where they were suing individuals, and that was where it was going. Consumers were being sued. So those were thousands. I'm going to say there were thousands of lawsuits against individuals who were illegally file sharing. I think the tide turned after the Supreme Court case came down, which said you don't have to go after the individuals, you can go after the services themselves. And so we started suing the services. In the United States, we have fewer cases, I will say, because we've been able to go after those services that are based in the United States fairly easily. So we typically, for us, we have, a few cases in the United States every year. But then you've got the record companies, they're suing, they have cases. Video game companies might have cases. Trademark owners like Louis Vuitton and Gucci, they might have certain cases as well. And then we actually have a lot of cases overseas. So again, I mentioned that we have offices in Brussels and in Singapore and Hong Kong. So we actually bring litigation in China. We have litigation in France right now. We have litigation in Taiwan. So we do cases in both the United States as well as cases overseas as well.
Phew. It just sounds like you all are super, super busy. And so, Billy, do you have aspirations to be a litigator?
No, I plan to be on more of the transactional side.
Okay.
I would say my goal in going to undergrad at Howard and going to law school at Howard was to get out and start a sports and entertainment agency. So hopefully this is a step towards that. I'm just trying to, get my skills together, get better at content protection and things of that nature before I try to branch out on my own.
Got it. And then Ryan, you said you're not sure yet. Are you thinking law school?
It's still in the works. I can't give you a direct answer at this very moment, but I'm really interested in executive production. That is something that has been standing out a lot to me over the last few months, I guess since June, since starting the fellowship. I've had a lot of conversations with producers, especially on the executive side, working at studios. So that's been really interesting. And I think that this background in policy could help as well.
I'm sure it will. Tell us what
Absolutely.
an executive producer does.
So, in funding projects in film and television, the executive producer works with, they say they meet with someone that has an idea, and they basically make the project happen. It's a lot of financial side working. You're basically piecing the project together. That's probably my best way to describe what a producer does. The reason I say the executive side is because I do want to have more of a business background. So I think that policy background, that financial aspect, having that back, I might get my MBA. I don't know. So that might be something I'm considered the JD MBA route. But also the legal aspect as well, like just in basically the people that build the project. So yeah, they work with the creatives and then they help bring the concept to life. So that's something that I'm really interested in. In terms of school, I'm not sure what that would look like yet. I've gotten a lot of recommendations from people in the industry for different routes that I could possibly go. Of course, a lot of people are rooting for me to go to law school. So we'll see. We'll see. It's definitely in the cards, though. I haven't eliminated it. So it's still there.
That's good. Your options are open.
Yes.
Sounds like you want to be a deal maker, though, right? That's what it sounds like.
Absolutely. That psychology would kick in. So,
yeah. But your psychology is always going to kick in.
Yes, ma'am.
So never downplay that degree. Your psychology is going to always kick in.
Absolutely.
And so we're under 8 minutes, and so we're getting ready to wrap up this. Really, I hope our viewers have found this. Thank you, Stephanie Cornish. Great information. I found it great information. And so if you're just tuning in or you're just catching this last 10 minutes, you may be watching this later. This has been the Afro-American Newspapers Chicken BOXX segment, right? Speaking of copyrights and things like that, we don't own this platform. But we do own, we think, our content. That's something for others to weigh in. But thank you for being here, Karyn Temple, Billy Davis, Ryan Lewis. To those who are viewing, let's see, Laverne Chapman, and I think I called Jack in, and we saw Stephanie, and Karyn is saying, hey, to learn more about Karyn, we want you to visit that website that's up in the chat. We also want to encourage you, share the link that was there earlier. I think it'll pop up again. We are taking a survey. We're getting ready to up our business content, and we want to know what you want to know about. So take a survey and get a chance to win an iPad Air. Also, please go to afro.com. Please, please, please go to afro.com. Impeccable, who's our other co-host, he would say it's a shameless plug. It's not a shameless plug. It isn't a request. We are people of faith, and you have not because you ask not. So we're asking you to subscribe to the Afro for less than the cost of 2 Uber Eats. You can get a digital subscription to the Afro. And because we are 130 years old, we're absorbing a lot of the postage because we mail the print product straight to your house. Now, somebody might say, well, you know what? I want all my news here. That's where I get mine as well. So you get the print and digital for 2 years for $130. Come on, you can't beat that. We just spent $130 eating at somebody's restaurant. The food wasn't all that good, right? And that was just 2 of us. But you get 2 years for $130. You can keep the digital and give away the print. You can keep the print and give away the digital. So I don't know how true this is. It's another whole show. But some of my Gen Z friends say, you know what? We didn't grow up with newspapers like that, but we like the feel of a newspaper. I'm like, ooh, okay. You know, the more things change, the more they stay the same. So I am Frances Tony Draper. I am popping off. Courtney, you have it for the last 5 minutes where each of our guests, this is my time. I've been on the box. So I'm on the box. I'm getting off the box. But I want to thank you all for being with us today. And I'm going to go back and catch this last 5 minutes a little later after I catch the January 6th hearings, right, that are going to start in about 5 minutes. I'm going to catch this and hear what you all had to say on the box. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Courtney, for being with us today. All right, take care, everybody. All right.
Hi, Dr. Draper.
You all are on the box.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
So I guess I'm on the box now. Thank you again, Karen, Billy, and Ryan for joining us today. This is a very informative topic, and I feel like you guys educated people. I definitely, when I thought copyright, I didn't know that copyright dealt with a lot of these legal issues like that. So thank you for educating us. And yeah, thank you for everything that you do. I do agree that people can face, like, it's not just legal issues, but the ethical issues as well. People need to stop and think, do I want to face potential ethical and legal issues by going on sites like that, by streaming illegal content? So thank you so much for informing us, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. Please do take that survey. You can find the link in our bios on our social media pages. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Engage with us. We want to hear from you. And whoever wants to go on the box next, we would love to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Courtney.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yes, thank you, Courtney.
Thank you. I guess, well, you mean us on the box? Like,
yeah, it's your turn to get on the box. You can speak your truth, whatever you want to talk about.
I don't have any truth to speak, but I do encourage people to learn more about this program, the fellowship, specifically this opportunity, especially HBCU graduates or Hispanic serving institutions or whatever it may be, minority backgrounds. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. So I would encourage those watching to definitely send to your younger family, recent graduates looking for their next steps if they're interested in the legal field or entertainment specifically. So yeah, that's all I have to say. So thank you.
I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say a few things about some of the stuff that we've been doing at the program as far as the experiences, just get people a little excited. I know the first week when we came out to LA, it was amazing. We got to tour all the studios. We found out that we were going to be seeing the world premiere of Nope at the theater with the cast. We got to meet Rich Paul, which is a personal goal of mine. So that was nice. Then we also got to meet Chris Paul at the Grammys Museum. We got to meet a celebrity stylist, actually Chris Paul's celebrity stylist. She came in and gave us some pointers on how to dress professionally and just tips on your wardrobe. There's screenings almost twice a month. I think I'm going to a screening for Black Adam next week. We get to attend galas. We get to attend conferences. we just get to do everything, and the access that they set out to give us, they've definitely given us. I've been to more events in the past month than I went to, I want to say, since like 2021. Like it's been amazing. Karyn's been great. She's been understanding. The entire team here is helpful. I can tell that they want to see us succeed. There's never a moment where I have to think like, what should I be doing right now? Because there's always something like, hey, you can look at this. There's this going on this week if you're interested. And you can just tell it's from the bottom of their heart, and it's genuine, because some of these things aren't even involving our company. And Karyn will shoot me an email like, hey, FYI, I don't know if you saw this, but you might want to do this. This sounds like something you'd be interested in. So I got to thank Karyn. I got to thank Katie and the entire MPA and EICOP for this opportunity. Truly life-changing.
And I just want to say thank you to Ryan and Billy. We couldn't have chosen a better inaugural class to get this started. They've just been wonderful to work with. Just so obviously smart and professional and go-getters. I know, Ryan, you're going to be that executive producer boss, in several years, and Billy, you're going to be that agent for that next big A-list star. So they have just done a wonderful job. I will say, Billy is right. I mean, this is something where we personally, myself and the other folks within the MPA, really do want to see them succeed, and we want to see the people who are listening succeed in the entertainment industry, because we know how important it is to have diversity, again, both in front of and behind the camera. So I'm excited that we were able to get this fellowship and have all of the support of the studios. When I said we were, going to start this fellowship, and I needed studios who were going to be willing to host our fellows, I mean, there was a fight over which studios could be the ones to host the fellows. I was like, well, I only have 2 studios, but you guys, 2 fellows, but you guys can certainly, host them for days and for shadow days and weeks. So this is something that the industry, I think, hasn't done great in the past, but really has been more focused on. And there are just so many people who are trying to create better diversity, both behind and in front of the camera. So fingers crossed that we continue this wonderful, wonderful program. And Ryan and Billy will be the first of many, many to come.
Great. And if you are interested in learning more about MPA, you can check this out, and you can also go to their website to view more about the fellowship. So thank you guys again for joining us. I hope that you have a blessed day, and thank you to the audience for joining us again. So everyone, have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.